All right, it's week 11 of the College Football Corner. Fletch is here, myself with Randy. As always, we are partnered with Dubby, which Randy has yet to try because I have yet to get him his stuff. I apologize for that. Hopefully, I can do it this weekend. It's not like we live really far from each other, but if we didn't have this, we wouldn't talk probably. So, welcome to the show. We got some interesting things to talk about. If you're watching any college football last night, you know USC took care of business when it comes to Northwestern, and that just keeps them in the one loss conference team running in case IU or Ohio State trips up, but we'll get into all that. So, give us a like on Facebook, and of course, hit the bells and subscribe on YouTube. So, some games this weekend, not as many as you were saying off air, but what are your thoughts of this weekend? What are you looking for, and who do you think is potentially, if any, going to be upset?
Well, I think the big one probably this weekend was one, and we keep getting games every weekend that we would never thought would be the marquee game of the weekend. You know, was it Texas Tech and BYU? So,
oh yeah.
Yeah, every week when we think it would be, maybe Indiana, Penn State, or, Alabama,
even this week, Alabama, LSU, yeah.
LSU, we have Texas Tech and BYU. So in a year of weird, it's been a little bit surprising of what how the games have changed in perspective of what we thought we would see. I mean, not that these games won't be big games because especially the LSU Alabama game, that's a huge rivalry.
Yeah,
that's another one of those kind of like Alabama Auburn, Alabama LSU. I honestly think you can throw those records out the window because when those types of teams match up, that kind of rivalry, you just never know what's going to happen or what you're going to get there. So it'll be an interesting weekend. We'd like to said, that we thought we would see closer matchups as far as rankings and records go, but we're still going to see some great games.
Yeah, another one is Clemson, Florida State. Two completely well-known teams and schools that have had great success over the years, and they're both unranked. And it's a game that's probably on ESPN3 or something this week.
ESPN4.
Yeah, the Ocho or whatever. So, certainly different this year as opposed to in previous years, but in previous weeks, that is. But and interesting time slots are interesting because Indiana Penn State's a noon kick, so is Georgia Mississippi State, which Mississippi State can give people fits, but I don't think either one of us think Georgia's going to drop that game. Right. And then BYU and Texas, when we were talking about, it's a noon game, and it's at Texas Tech. BYU undefeated in the Big 12, and Texas Tech's got the one loss. They lose this, and they're pretty much out of the Big 12 with two losses. With what's happening in the Big 12, basically, the Bearcats are sitting there with one loss, hoping that one of them lose, or actually they would probably love to see the BYU lose, and then when they play them on the 22nd, which should be a really nice big game, because then it's like that's going to be almost a stamp to get into that final game, and then maybe play each other again, as we've seen in years past where that happens. Two teams play each other. Of course. Ole Miss is hosting the Citadel. That's always a burner. But now Oregon and Iowa is another one that's not too bad. It's at Iowa, tough place to play. Or Iowa, you just kind of always know what you're going to get. Tough defense, hard to run against. They got some offense this year. I think they're averaging maybe 14 points a game, which is big for them, or something like that. But Oregon. Some starting to say there's a little chink in the armor. They haven't quite, if you look at them on paper and look at the statistics and who they've played, they haven't matched what they've done last year, but obviously they haven't played the number of teams. So this would be a nice, if they go out and really take care of Iowa, that would say something about them, because even Indiana didn't blow the doors off of Iowa. At Iowa, they beat them by 5 with a late touchdown. So, and if they don't, then it kind of puts Oregon in a really precarious spot within the Big Ten, which is basically everybody hoping that either Ohio State or Indiana lose. And even with that, Oregon's got to play. Where is it at here? Big Ten. They got to play Iowa today. Then they play USC later, which is another one-loss team. Right. So lots of issues with that. Then we could, of course, like you mentioned, Vanderbilt took a loss. Georgia Tech took a loss. A lot of these teams that were really riding high, took a loss. Now it's really precarious to get in there. I think Navy Notre Dame's a good, interesting game tonight. It's at Notre Dame. Navy's always a tough out. I would bet on Notre Dame to win, but you never know. And it's going to be rainy and sloppy there, so that could really wreak havoc on either one of the teams. So.
Well, you know what Navy's. I mean, they're going to run the football. They're going to run that option.
Oh yeah,
that they run so well. So I mean, that could possibly very well keep them in that game.
Yeah.
Then the other one is Texas A&M, Missouri.
Another
pretty interesting game. So.
And that's on the road at Missouri.
Yeah, things are getting really interested with these one-loss teams. So I think this week and next week, I think is going to really really muddy the waters and make things even more interesting.
Absolutely. We got the CFP rankings right here. We know what that's all about. You can see who was off last week and who's playing. There's Alabama, LSU, like there's A&M and Missouri, like you were saying. You look at some of these that Indiana, Penn State should have been a barn burner. And Penn State does have a chance, like anybody else does, to say, hey, we got nothing else to play for. Let's just try to go out and take this game. That's what obviously LSU was hoping to do with a burst of having Kelly gone. More than likely, we don't think it's going to happen. Not that they still got great players, there's no doubt. So can they come together as a team and make a game of it and see what happens? But they're of course Penn State's at home, LSU's on the road. It might be a little different feel if they were at Death Valley. They're not. Should be business as usual for those two teams, but we'll see if for the Indiana. They're just literally, other than Iowa, they're torching everybody. They really, I think Kurt Cignetti's like, leave no doubt and light up the scoreboard as much as you can. And he's probably fighting perception too. One slip up, and they're not as good as everybody thought they were. It was flashing the pan up last year, especially this year. We're starting to put those naysayers around. If he can get out, win the Big Ten, they really might start next year starting to believe what's going on there. And I'm a believer. I think the guy's a great coach. He can take what he's got and do all that with it. And he's beat good teams on the road at home. And I know you feel the same way. He's a good coach. Whether he's a championship coach, it's another thing, but he's a really good coach to turn that losingest team of all time around in big college football.
Yeah, well, I think that we definitely agree. I mean, I think he's a very good coach. The thing is, I think he's brought Indiana so far along, but the thing, can you get past Ohio State? Can you get past that first round in the playoffs? That's going to be the big question for Indiana. I mean, they have had a favorable schedule. I mean, they did go to Oregon. That was a huge win for them. That was a great win. But other than that, they've had a pretty favorable schedule. So, a pretty clear path to the Big Ten championship.
Yeah.
Barring nothing crazy in the year weird. They got a pretty clear path, but can they get past Ohio State? And even if they don't get past Ohio State, then can they win? Can they win the first round in the playoffs? That's the biggest question for Indiana right now. And to be honest with you, I mean, I don't know the answer to that. Honestly, right. I don't think they're going to get past Ohio State. I really don't. But that'll still put them in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So what they do in the playoffs is going to really determine how far Indiana has. I mean, they've come a long way, but how much further they can go.
Yeah, it's exactly. We both feel that they're going to both those two teams, Ohio State and Indiana, will get to the Indianapolis undefeated. Then they play each other. Both are going into CFP regardless.
Right.
So, who needs to win more? That nobody's thinking that way on that are on the teams. All the talking heads are. But if IU beats Ohio State, that's their best win in the Cignetti era. Right now, it's Oregon. There's no doubt. It was a great win, going in there and winning. It takes a look. I don't want to take anything away from IU. It might look a little different than it would have last year, just because the team doesn't look as dominant as last year. No big deal. It's still a tough place to go and get a win. It's still a great win for Indiana. Indiana will go into the CFP ranked number 1. Either the winner of the Big Ten, if they're undefeated, will go into the CFP ranked number 1. The other one probably, I don't know, four or five, or at least 5, because of the rankings. Anyways, but so and they want to win it, so it'll be a great game. There's no doubt, and I do agree that Indiana has got to win. If they beat Ohio State, that's a great win. Get into the CFP, but even if they lose to Ohio State, if they're not blown out, and then they get in and get a win in the CFP, that's a great win for them, and it shows something, that sure. and it's not. And if they don't, it doesn't mean they're horrible. It just means he's got work to do. I mean, Ryan Day's been working on that championship last year for about 6 years, and everybody keeps getting knocked down here, knocked down there. So we all know it's as hard as it is to go from 0 to the top 10, the top 5. It's even harder to go from top 5 to the top 1. It's
to the top 1, and even with the with the new format and the 12 teams, to get to that Final Four, which is a whole new ball game now to get to the Final Four now, because you got to go through a couple other games to do that. So that makes it much more interesting. Like I said, hats off to Indiana. I mean, the guy has really turned them around. He's made them irrelevant. They lots of things going on there. But just like some teams we've seen in the past. Does Indiana become the new Penn State of the Big Ten? Those are questions that we don't know the answer to, but here in the coming weeks, we're certainly going to find out.
Yeah. And Ole Miss is and to get to the SEC, they're right there with the one loss. They're almost certainly going to be a team getting into the mix, getting into the CFP. If you look at the rest of their games, they play Florida, Mississippi State. I'm just counting the conference games, because a lot of these teams play a non-conference game against a rival that is going to count on the CFP to a certain degree, obviously, but certainly winning the conference, will get you in. And so, Ole Miss, they play Florida, they play Mississippi State. Texas has actually 3 games in the conference left: Georgia, Arkansas, and A&M. And then, of course, we know Georgia's Ole Miss, Texas. Georgia and Ole Miss and Texas are the one conference loss games in the ACC. So if Aggies and Bama win out, that'll knock out Texas, with Texas getting that third loss in second. You got to go?
Yeah, just for a second.
No problem. Go ahead. Yeah, I'm going to hide him on stream for a second. But, so as I was saying, Aggies and Bama are 5-0 in the SEC. So, and Texas plays A&M. So if A&M beats them, that's probably knocking Texas out with a third loss in the second. But the other side of that is they could be the best 3-loss team. And if a 3-loss team is going to get in, it could mean Texas got them back now. What I was just saying was there's a lot of speculation on if a 3-loss team can get in the CFP, and I think right now the best team that has a chance to get the 3 losses and get in is Texas, because they've got a loss to Ohio State, number 1 team in the nation, a loss to Florida, 1 conference loss. If they lose to A&M, and they don't get blown out, that's their 3rd loss, and that's their own. They got 3 losses, 2 against top 2 teams, and then Florida. That's not a guarantee, but that's probably going to be the best looking resume of a 3-loss team across the board to have a chance to get in. And I think there's other things involved in that, as far as other teams in other conferences losing, where it makes Texas look good. Other than that, I don't think anybody with 3 losses to get in, and I really don't think that'll happen. But that'd be the only shot that I see. I've been going through it pretty good. So,
yeah, the only other team that I see with the possible outside chance would be maybe Tennessee. With their losses. I mean, if things hold like they are, and lost to Alabama, a loss to Georgia, so they would have, if there is a 3-loss team, that gets in. They lost to Oklahoma, and they've already
who they got left. They got Florida and Vanderbilt, so not and New Mexico State. So not a lot of meat on the bone, but they're to get them up there. I think I agree with you, a little less than Texas, but even if Texas loses that game and Tennessee wins out, they're both 3 losses. I think Texas is a little bit better looking, but not by much. I mean, it's hairs,
right.
But more likely. Yeah,
that's the only 2 teams I see that could even possibly be in that argument. I don't think a 3-loss team should be in the playoffs. I mean, depending on what happens and who those teams are, obviously could
sure.
make a difference. I was telling you earlier before we got on. I truly believe that the SEC is going to be a hot mess before it's over with. I look at Alabama. They got LSU this week, a big rivalry game. Certainly that's not a given. The following week they have Oklahoma, and I was telling Fletch earlier that Alabama's not done well historically against Oklahoma. I mean, they just haven't. And Oklahoma's defense and a running quarterback is the type of thing that gives Alabama fits. So I actually see Alabama having 2 losses and possibly not even playing in the SEC championship. I think they could still make the playoffs. And, we were talking, I think just last week about, well, is it better to play in that championship game or not play in it? I don't think it totally kills you not to.
Right.
It may knock you out of a bye game, but again, I don't know how much that matters because we've seen teams run the gauntlet and go right through that. So yeah, it's going to get real interesting. And I know there's other conferences that are going to have the same situations that are just kind of up in the air right now. And then the coming weeks, the games that are scheduled is really going to make a difference by a game or 2 of who's going where.
So, as far as the SEC goes, quote me if I'm wrong. You're a little more in tune. I was looking at it. Bama's undefeated in the conference, correct?
Right.
Yeah. So if they lose to Oklahoma, they got 1 loss. They've already beat Georgia, who's got 1 loss. Did they play Ole Miss?
They don't play Ole Miss.
Okay, and then they don't play Texas, and those are the only other teams that got 1 loss. So they would have a tiebreaker against Georgia, and then Texas and Ole Miss would come down to if who's beat who and all. I don't know how that tiebreaker goes. I don't know if because that's a crazy. All these 3-way tiebreakers are nuts.
Yeah, it would be. What I was throwing in there is that the LSU game today is not a given.
Oh yeah. If they lose 2, obviously, there's no doubt.
Right. So I think that that's what I would say is not a given. I mean, you get down to the tiebreakers and all that. I don't know exactly what they are.
Yeah.
I know they hold one over Georgia. If Georgia runs the table and Alabama runs the table, they hold that tiebreaker.
Yeah.
Certainly they would be in. With the SEC championship at that point. But there's still some games that are huge rivalries, and I'm talking about Alabama right now. Huge rivalry, LSU, Auburn, and then throw in the middle of that Oklahoma game. And it's just I don't think it's an easy road for them, even though 2 of those teams' records aren't what we thought they would be.
Right.
It's like a Penn State and everything else. You still have that rivalry thing going on where
sure,
we see it year after year. You just don't know.
Ohio State, Michigan last year. It was ugly, lost 10-13, and it was a rivalry. But didn't keep them out. But yeah, it was ugly, and then of course they go on to win it all. But
right.
So it's very interesting moving forward. We got some really interesting games, like you were saying, LSU and Alabama. Who you just can't say, oh, roll the helmet out there, you're gonna win. You can't really do that almost anywhere. But yeah, Texas has got it tough with Georgia, Arkansas, and A&M. I guess common opponents could be when they don't play head to head. So who else did you lose to?
Right.
And stuff like that. So it'd be interesting going down that road. But because Oklahoma, does anybody beat them? And if they beat Bama, that could be an interesting part of that tiebreaker thing. Is who have they beaten? Because that's who beat Alabama if they lose them. So I don't think they will. But one thing about Alabama you talked greatly about is they really, really got to do whatever they can to establish the run because they haven't been running the football great. That's probably their one big, main, I guess, one of their bigger things that they got to show. They've been playing great football, great defense, and great passing game. They've been opportunistic with turnovers and done things well. But the one thing they're really having an issue with is running the football.
Right. Yeah, and this, the thing is, we've talked about before. And once again, regardless of records, we know who solid teams are.
Oh yeah,
And who has talent and who has the 5-star guys and all that kind of stuff. We all know that. The thing is how do they match up?
Right.
How does Indiana and Ohio State match up? I mean, I don't really have the answer for that. I mean, is Indiana's offensive line, are they going to be able to contain the defensive line? Is
right.
the defensive backs, receivers, that all comes into play.
It does,
and that's one of the things with like I was saying earlier, you get a strong defense, a quarterback that's mobile, things that we know that in the history of what we've seen the last few years give certain teams trouble. I mean, of course, Alabama's would be listed in one of those teams, but these matchups that are coming up, that's the one thing we don't know. It's not necessarily, who's got the best record and who does this. It really comes down to how do these teams match up. Some teams have, projected first-round picks as defensive backs, projected first-round picks as linemen, as defensive guys. So, how does your best pass rusher match up against that left tackle or right tackle or whatever? So, so many things come into this that, I don't know that everybody realizes that how much that really comes into play in these key games.
Yeah, it's 100% the truth, and they talk about that somewhat, but hey, when they go play, when you go play Iowa, it's all about matchups because Iowa, great line of scrimmage, tough defense. They play great in the back end. They don't let anybody go over the top.
Right.
And they try to, squeeze the ball, punt it deep, pin you deep, and flip the field and get a short field. And they hope you make a mistake, And you can win a lot of games that way, but it's tough sledding usually. They're not trying to go out there and just light it up and outscore you, Where other teams, that's their MO, man. Just attack and get a lead and then put you on your heels. So, it's all matchups and certainly the line of scrimmage. It's one thing to match up on the outside and stuff, but it doesn't matter how good your receivers are if your quarterback's not standing up. So,
they always say the game's won in the trenches, and that's still true.
Oh yeah, there's no way around it. One thing I really liked about Urban Meyer when he coached was he said right before a big game he asked his strength coach, can we match up against these guys on their defensive line? Can we handle them? Because if we can't, we're going outside and everything. And if we can, then we'll go after, You got to play to your strengths against the team you're playing with. So you just can't go out there and try to do the same thing every week, regardless of who you're playing against, because some teams are better at things than other teams are. There's no doubt. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's what makes the game. Part of it is awesome. So let's see who's on. A lot of teams are on a bye this week. In the top 10, of course. We got Texas on a bye, Oklahoma and Utah, as well as Georgia Tech and Michigan. Do I say that with a little emphasis? Pitt and Tennessee. So some of them teams were on by last week. So. Yeah, forget the number. There's going to be great games this week. I know LSU and Alabama is going to be a great game. The numbers on the next to the team don't really matter. Those teams hate each other. They always have. They always will. You especially hate LSU for good reason. So Ohio State's going to Purdue. Yeah, there's a lot of hate there, but not a lot. Thank God Jeff Brom's not coaching there anymore. But anyways,
that'd be the biggest shocker of the season if that was
Yeah, I mean,
no
doubt.
I agree with you. That Notre Dame Navy game, like I said, like you were saying, it could be very interesting, pretty impressive. There's Navy sitting there with one loss, and
right.
They've had a great season. You got Nebraska and UCLA. Who knows what you get with UCLA? You might get a barn burner, you might not.
And Nebraska lost their quarterback last week, so they got a backup.
That's right, they did.
Yeah, so, Dylan Raiola, he's out for the year with a broken fibula.
Yeah, that really hurts. Really hurts Nebraska. That's unfortunate.
Yep. Yeah. So we'll see what that backup's made of. And hey, we've all seen what's that guy's name? Holy cow! He just lit it up. That happens. So you never know. Dylan Raiola could lose his job because this guy's so good. You never know. It's college football. It's beautiful. But the messiness in Notre Dame. I wanted they kind of played with their food a little bit against BC last week. That's a road game. BC, one win and I think on the season. So they, tough game there that they didn't blow them out on. But I don't know if Notre Dame's really meant to try to blow out people. I think they're a little, they can score, they can really run. But that's what basically you got. If you want to stop Notre Dame, you got to stop the run. I think Navy. They may not have the 4 and 5 stars, but they play discipline. They run and they stop the run fairly well. They won the Army Navy game last year. They've gone this whole year with only one loss. Weather, rain, sloppy. And I think they're on grass out there at Notre Dame. It's not turf. It's real grass. So that could be brings everybody closer together when you get that weather involved. So that could be a really fun game.
The Tulane knocking off Memphis last night was also another big game.
Yeah,
Tulane's starting to just kind of show up out of I shouldn't say out of nowhere. They've had a great season, but
sure.
All of a sudden we're talking some of the other teams. All of a sudden Tulane, right there in the conversation.
And I think their coach is John Summerall, I think, and they're talking a lot about him as a name for some of these openings. In the Power Four, so who knows? Right. The other guy from South Florida too. But yeah, I mean Tulane, Memphis was considered to be the team that was somewhat in the driver's seat for getting that group of 5 spot or group of 6, whatever they call it now, and that's definitely puts a chink in their armor on that one. So because now Tulane's probably got at least a tiebreaker against them if that comes down to them two, whoever the highest ranked one is. So to get in the CFP. Which right now, it looks like we got 12 teams in the CFP. Only 10 spots are really available because the group of 5 is going to get there, and the ACC winner is going to get there. And right now, the ACC is not ranked in the top 12, which is Virginia. See how that goes along in the next 4 weeks. But as it is now, they're not in the top 12, so they would move up and take out another spot, which I believe was Oklahoma and Texas going into next Tuesday. That'll change, I'm sure. So.
Well, we had that last year with, they changed the format, which I'm glad they did because you had some top 4 teams that were literally ranked 18, 16, in the country. I mean, one of those teams gave us at least an interesting game, but yeah, that was, that's one thing about winning the conference, to get you in, and certainly that possibly knocks somebody else out of a spot that's. Maybe would be more deserving, or maybe that's not even a word. Maybe more competitive.
Right.
It would be better to say that.
I mean, if UC knocks off BYU in 2 weeks, I think it is, and then they play each other, does a loser of that game automatically not get in the CFP? That's kind of a tough one because I think they're both in the championship game, and it's a competitive game. It's not a blowout. The winner gets in. The loser's only got 2 losses and they were both in conference. One was Nebraska for UC. The other one is a one conference loss to BYU in the championship game. Does that look? Does a 3-loss Texas team get over that? I would say no. I'd say take a conference loser versus taking a 3-loss Texas team. But that's not. That's just because. But no big deal. So
right. Yep. Yeah, certainly makes a difference in all that. So how that all plays out. But I think they changed the format for the better than what it was last year. So, but still, you're going to have teams in there that, maybe that first, no doubt. I mean, it's going to happen, and we're going to have that first round where you're going to go, oh, this is a terrible matchup. But overall, I think it's good. I think normally we see some really great games. So, that's what we're all looking forward to at this point.
And one of the best parts about it is. All those games are settled on the field. It's not, the rankings get you in there, and then it's put up or go home. And that's what's really nice. It was great last year. Everybody talked about who was going to do what, but some of that didn't happen when they played. So it was good. So who would have thunk, man? 2.5 months ago, we're sitting there talking about how Clemson, LSU, and Florida State look like 3 teams that are ready to go out there and make a whole lot of noise. Penn State, Tennessee,
Texas ranked number 1. Going to be sitting there with possibly 3 losses. But
right.
maybe they have 3 losses. I don't know. But anyways,
Texas got 2, but boy, they got 3 tough games: Georgia, A&M,
Georgia, and A&M,
and they got a third one. I got it right here. I think it's Arkansas. Yeah, Arkansas. If they get out of that unscathed, then hey, that's nice. I mean, it's going to be tough. They'll have 2 losses, and they will probably get in. If they beat A&M, I don't know if they're going to have the tiebreaker on A&M, but there's other 1-loss teams involved in all that, so that'd be interesting.
Oh yeah. Like I said, them waters are going to get really muddy here in the next couple of weeks. So it'll be interesting. So.
No doubt.
Another great weekend of football. I'm sure that we'll be talking about it and coming back with the post-game stuff on Sunday. And
Oh yeah.
So looking forward to it.
Yep. So I'd say it's a lot of good games, and we'll be unraveling it tomorrow. We'll kind of recapping, and then maybe we'll talk about some of the things that we think about going into Tuesday night CFP number 2. This could be a shake-up weekend with some of the lower, not so much to the top, but down in that middle after 5 and on in that 12. There's a lot of maneuvering going on, especially with Texas Tech and BYU playing each other. That's going to knock one of them back away. So,
yes, sir.
All righty. My throat's about to give out, so we'll call this one. And enjoy the games, guys. It should be a lot of fun. And join us right here tomorrow evening for the recap of Week 11. And we will see you then.